A few years ago, somebody close to me sent me an episode of the Joe Rogan podcast on YouTube where Joe Rogan was interviewing Steven Tyler, the lead singer of Aerosmith, the rock band. And my first reaction when I saw it, I never listened to podcasts back then. This was about, I want to say, 6 years ago, probably 5 or 6 years ago. And I saw it and I was like, this shit is 3 hours long. I'm not going to listen to this. But one day I was bored and I had to clean. And I was like, you know what? While I clean, I'll listen to this. And I found it really entertaining. Like, when I was a kid, Joe Rogan was the host of Fear Factor, which was a show where they get people to do like wild stuff for money, like eat bugs and stuff like that. So he's not someone I ever took seriously. And then someone when I was in college was like, Joe Rogan's actually a really cool guy. He does all these martial arts, and he showed me pictures of Joe Rogan being all ripped and stuff. And I was like, oh, cool. And he was like, yeah, he's all into DMT. He was in this uh, documentary called The Spirit Molecule and DMT. Like, when I was 18, DMT was like this mythical drug, and people were like, it's in the brain when you dream and when you die. And like, I bought into all that stuff, like that DMT is like the essence of consciousness and life itself. Now, um, let's just say I have experiences, and in my experiences, there's things I have learned in life where these kind of things are best left to the experts. That's what I'm going to say. And Joe Rogan is not a fucking expert at anything. So back to the podcast. So I listened to Steven Tyler, and Aerosmith was my favorite band when I was 13 to, I want to say, age 15, and then I fell in love with the Gorillaz, and I was really into the Gorillaz. And then after that, I never really had like a favorite band, but you know, I listened to a lot of different things. But I really loved like dad rock, classic rock music, and Aerosmith was my favorite dad rock band. I was obsessed with Aerosmith when I was a young teenager. Like, I listened to all their albums. I had Guitar Hero Aerosmith. I would research, like, where the album artwork came from. I would read all the liner notes, and I even read Steven Tyler's memoir book. It's called The Noise in My Head or something. Now, that's not to say, like, I think Steven Tyler's really a good guy or a cool guy, because I don't. I think he's probably a piece of shit, based on things I've read. And anyway, that's a different thing. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is Joe Rogan had, like, my impression from that episode was that he seemed like a cool guy, like an easy guy to talk to, an easy guy to listen to. His interview style is like, he never really disagrees with his guests. He just kind of lets them talk, and it's like an average Joe. Like, he's like this every guy. Like, I never even really thought of him as like a political person. I was just like, wow, this is fun to listen to. And from then I listened, like, he had James Hetfield from Metallica. He had the lead singer of Tool, Maynard, something, Keenan Maynard, whatever the guy's name is. Like, celebrities and people that I like their art. And then he had scientists on. He had Neil deGrasse Tyson, Sir Roger Penrose. There was other scientists that he had on. But when I was a kid, I really loved science stuff. And I just kind of stopped paying attention. And then, like, listening to Joe Rogan interview these scientists, it was really fun for me. It was fascinating. I was like, wow, because he seems kind of dumb, Joe Rogan, like an average kind of dude. I think he's actually very smart. Not that I think he's a good person, but about certain things, he's smart. And about a lot of things, he's very dumb. We're going to come back to that. But the way that he is inquisitive, in the sense like when these scientists would talk, he would ask questions that I would ask someone who is very shallow knowledge about things, and it's like things I'm just curious about. So that was really fun for me to listen to, and it actually like revitalized my curiosity about science. So I read Cosmos, I read one of Neil deGrasse Tyson's book, I read a Stephen Hawking book, some Charles Dawkins book. Like, I started listening to Neil deGrasse Tyson's podcast, Star Talk, and from there, like, listening to Joe Rogan's podcast, I like became more open to podcasts, and now I'm listening to an educational podcast. When I work out, I listen to Philosophize This by Stephen West. Anyway, I stopped listening to Joe Rogan many years ago. Well, not I say many, but like, let's say like, I think all in all, I listened to a lot of his podcasts for like 1 year. And it was mainly musicians, scientists. But here's the thing. Like, it was at the time, the only podcast I was interested in. And I was like, I didn't even know what Discord was, but people kept recommending joining this Joe Rogan Discord. So I did, and the people on it all seemed friendly and stuff. But here's the thing. The most viewed stuff on Joe Rogan's podcast would be Ben Shapiro, Jordan Peterson, and some other right-wing people, Blair White, Candace Owens, like Tim Pool. I didn't know who these people were, but these had the most views, and people on this Discord would be saying, like, I remember they're like, oh, this Tim Pool episode is so amazing and blah blah blah. So I listened to I wasn't even really political at this time. Like, I was pretty ignorant about most things because I didn't pay attention. I was very self-absorbed, didn't really see the need to keep up with current events, but I listened to Ben Shapiro, Jordan Peterson, and here's the thing. The way Joe Rogan interviews these people, he doesn't, like I said, he's very easy to talk to. He does not give pushback. I didn't know who Ben Shapiro was. I didn't know who Jordan Peterson was. I didn't know that these are people who promote far-right ideologies, hateful, misogynistic, racist ideologies. I didn't know any of that. Tim Pool is a neo-Nazi. He even had fucking Gavin McInnes on his podcast, I'm pretty sure. Joe Rogan had Gavin McInnes, the founder of Vice and the Proud Boys, which is a fucking white supremacist group. So that's the insidiousness of Joe Rogan's podcast. He is a gateway to the alt-right. And the reason why people like Ben Shapiro, Jordan Peterson has the most views on his channel is because it's white nationalist people who gravitate towards Joe Rogan. It's a very insidious thing, though. And the biggest grievance I have with Joe Rogan is him platforming Alex Jones. And I remember the longest episode of his podcast was with Alex Jones Returns. And this is like when people use memes to joke and push ironic far-right ideology. They'll joke and post a Nazi meme, and it's funny, and if you get offended by it, it's just a joke, man. Why are you getting offended by it? And it's the same thing like when Alex Jones Returns, 3 hours, over, like, I think it was 4 hours long. Alex Jones is Joe Rogan's buddy, right? Alex Jones was in the Republican National Convention. Alex Jones promoted the idea that the Sandy Hook Elementary School shooting was an act. It was crisis actors pretending. When you think about the Republican Party as a corporate fascist group, everything starts to make sense. The reason why they adamantly protect gun rights and prevent reform. It's to prop up the gun industry, protecting the automobile industry. They advocate against climate change, all this stuff. It's all to protect private corporate interest and billionaire interest. And if you divide people along racial and nationalistic lines, and I've talked about this before, you shove people into boxes of identity and create a hierarchy and a caste system, this all props up the wealthy class, the oligarchical class. And that's why America is a plutocratic corporatocracy, and Joe Rogan is this insidious, far right, alt right, like shallow level. Like, it's more obvious to people now, but I remember even when I told my friend, like, oh, these episodes are pretty cool, and he is more like, he was left leaning before I was. I am left leaning now, or I am a leftist now. But he was first, and he was like, I can't stand him. He's a gateway to the alt right. I didn't get it. I didn't understand. And then, when, like I said, platforming all these far right people, he's never had someone like ContraPoints on his podcast. He's not allowed. He's allowed these COVID vaccine conspiracists to spread their ideas unchallenged. I will say, okay, he had Bernie Sanders on, he had Andrew Yang on, which, yeah, that's the thing. Like, he plays like he's in the middle, but he goes, like, he's disingenuous towards people who are left leaning. Like, I will give some credit that he is somewhat neutral, but he platforms enough right-leaning people enough times and advocates their ideas more that he gives the pretense of being in the middle when he's really not. And that's the thing. When he got COVID, he took that ivermectin, the fucking horse drug. And it's like, look, the people, the experts, people who are like, do your own research, fucking Google, and you get all these far right sites saying garbage bullshit, right? The actual scientists, the doctors, the people who are developing these kind of things, like, if you want to mistrust things, like, do so with enough evidence, right? And this COVID, the guy Robert Kennedy, right? He's had Robert Kennedy on his show, like, promoting these anti-vaccine ideologies, which is all like, it's so weird to me that that's what the conservative party is platforming on, and it's like, where, I don't even understand how it benefits. Like, it just seems like another way to try to control people and try to say, like, this idea of mistrust, sowing mistrust in the establishment, right? It is something that fascists do. They sow mistrust in current power structures so that they can take over. But here's the thing, like, advocating against vaccines when there's a deadly virus killing people, like, it shows the stupidity of right-wing ideology. Like, everything is built on extreme stupidity, like racism, anti-vax, religion, all this garbage conservative mentality is all ultimately self-destructive. So, back to my original point, like, you dig enough into Joe Rogan, you find that even a long time ago, he's been problematic. He's allowed a lot of racist conspiracy stuff. The motherfucker didn't even believe in the moon landing. And I know he said something like flat earth or hollow earth, like there was some point he believed that stuff. So, yeah. Ben Shapiro, Jordan Peterson, Joe Rogan. Like, here's the thing. I thought his podcast was cool. I even made a song called Joe Rogan's Eternal Goat Song. Now, a goat song means like a dirge of tragedy. It's something that I believe in ancient Greek society, they would sing these sad funereal songs. And my idea when I made that song, it's called Carl deGrasse Nye's Eternal Goat Song now. Like, it's all about, like, wanting to know more about the universe, that song I made. And that's what his podcast seemed like it was to me at the time. Like, because I was listening to him interview science people, and I found that so interesting. And I was like, oh, he seems like this average guy trying to know more about things, but we can never truly understand the unanswerable questions in life. But that's not really what he is. He's someone who platforms dangerous ideologies and gives them legitimacy when they really have none and are actually harmful to people. And that's why you have people like Ben Shapiro being platformed multiple times on his show, unchallenged, with the most views. Alex Jones, Ben Shapiro, all these people, like Joe Rogan, he may pretend to be neutral. He may seem like he's playing both sides in a shallow sense, but he's just as dangerous, if not more, than all those others. Because he kind of bridges between the average person who is ignorant to those dangerous ideologies of informed, dangerous, hateful bigotry. So be aware, Joe Rogan is a dangerous individual. He is a spokesman for fascism.